He was just a wild Mustang, clinging to a rooftop as floodwaters rose around him, mud-stained, trembling, forgotten. For hours, death circled closer with each wave. But just when all hope seemed lost, someone appeared in the water. Not a person, not even another horse. What swam toward him defied instinct, broke every rule of nature, and proved that true courage can come from the most unlikely place. This is the story of a storm, a fight for survival, and a bond no one saw coming. The grass was still sweet by the riverbank, even in September. Thunder's hooves sank gently into the softened earth as he moved through the herd, ears twitching, tail flicking lazily at a fly. He was young, just past 5, but already a presence among the wild ones. His bay coat shimmered with health, his white blaze a bright slash of defiance. Nearby, a foal nuzzled its dam. Creek water bubbled over rocks. The world felt steady. Above them, the sky was the color of old tin, dull and low, but not yet threatening. Just the kind of cloud cover that whispered autumn, not disaster. The wind carried the scent of sagebrush and distant rain, but nothing that made Thunder wary. He shook out his mane and stepped toward a patch of new grass, muscles rippling with the confidence of a horse who had never lost. His lead mare, a graying sorrel named Star, lifted her head and sniffed the air. Thunder noticed, ears flicking, but she didn't bolt, didn't sound alarm, just watched the horizon, then resumed grazing. That was enough for him. Instinct trusted her more than weather. A pair of Canada geese rose from the reeds upstream, honking into the gray. Thunder lifted his head to follow their path, then lowered it again. The valley had been dry for months, parched, cracked earth and brittle weeds. The river's return had been slow and quiet. No one expected more than a trickle this season. Somewhere in the distance, a low rumble echoed. Thunder didn't flinch. It wasn't Thunder the horse, it was Thunder the sound, the far-off kind that doesn't matter yet. He pawed at the grass and grazed deeper. The sky darkened slightly, not fast, not enough to worry them. The Mustangs moved slowly through the open range, a flowing rhythm of movement, ears flicking, bodies brushing, tails swishing in calm familiarity. Thunder paused at the edge of a slope that overlooked the valley basin. From here, he could see the faint shimmer of the muddy river and the dry brush beyond. It was the kind of view he was born to run across. Wind in his mane, sun at his back, but the sun was missing, and the wind had gone quiet. He didn't notice the first warning signs. None of them did, because sometimes storms don't start with a roar. Sometimes they arrive like a whisper, like the hush before something breaks. And in that hush, Thunder lowered his head for one more bite, unaware that within hours the world beneath his hooves would be gone. The ground didn't shake, the sky didn't split. There was no warning, just a sound, low at first, a strange rolling growl that didn't belong to wind or thunder or anything natural. Thunder lifted his head, ears swiveling toward the distant hills. The others sensed it too, tails stiffening, heads rising in eerie unison. Then came the crash. A wall of water, taller than any tree, surged into the valley like a beast unchained, brown, furious, filled with debris. It wasn't water, it was noise and force and destruction. Star screamed. Thunder spun just as the first wave hit the far ridge, devouring sagebrush and stones like they were paper. Horses scattered, some bolted uphill, others turned too late. The current caught a yearling by the flank and flipped her sideways into the air like a leaf. Thunder ran. His hooves struck mud, then water, then something between. The river was gone. In its place, a flood carrying trees, fencing, dead silence 1 second, roaring chaos the next. He galloped alongside Star, neck stretched, eyes wild. Behind them, the sound grew louder, closer. A freight train of water, no tracks, no end. Creek was gone, so was the foal, so was the rest of the band. Thunder tried to cut across a rise, but the ground shifted under him, soggy, unstable. A branch flew past his head. The sky was nothing now, just rain and pieces of things he didn't recognize. A house collapsed in the distance, its roof folding like cloth. Horses screamed, then silence, then the water again. Thunder's lungs burned as he pushed harder. His legs slipped, fought, regained traction. Star veered left, then vanished into a swell of muddy current. Gone. The flood was faster than instinct, faster than hooves. It wrapped around him like hands, grabbing, dragging. He leapt over a fence he hadn't seen until it was under him, landed hard, stumbled, kept going. A barn loomed ahead, human-made, normally something to avoid, but not now. Now it was shelter. It was something. Thunder surged toward it. The current surged faster. It caught his hindquarters mid-stride and slammed him sideways into the barn wall. Wood cracked. Pain exploded through his ribs. He fought to stay upright. His hooves clawed at the shifting mud. His neck stretched toward dry space, but the water swallowed everything. The last thing he saw before going under was a saddle floating by, not a rider, just the saddle, then darkness and silence. He couldn't breathe. The world was water and wood and noise, too loud, too fast. Thunder's body tumbled through the flood like driftwood, legs striking submerged wreckage, lungs screaming for air. Up became down. Mud forced its way into his nostrils. He kicked blindly, hooves catching nothing. Then somehow, light. His head broke the surface with a violent gasp. He coughed out water, eyes wide and wild. The barn was gone, or maybe he'd already passed it. Everything moved too fast to know. A rooftop floated by, pitched, shingled, still partially intact, not connected to anything, just drifting, like a raft. He lunged for it. The current pulled him sideways, slamming his shoulder into something sharp. Pain tore through him. He kicked harder. The roof spun, dipped, threatened to vanish beneath him. Thunder reached the edge with one last surge, his front legs scrambling for grip on the slick shingles. He slipped, then caught. His hooves found a groove in the roof's pitch. He dragged himself forward, chest scraping, ribs screaming. Every muscle burned. The flood slapped at his hind legs, trying to pull him back under. He braced, grunted, and heaved the rest of his body onto the floating island. It dipped beneath his weight. For a second he thought it would sink, then it held. Thunder stood, barely, legs splayed, soaked to the bone, head hanging low as he gasped for breath. The rooftop shifted beneath him, unstable but mercifully real. Around him, the flood raged, brown water stretching in every direction, carrying pieces of homes, trees, lives. No land, no herd, no sound but the roaring current. He looked back once, toward where the barn had been. Nothing remained, just sky and water. He turned in a slow circle, searching, star, creek, anyone. Nothing answered. The wind picked up, pushing rain sideways across his coat. It wasn't cold yet, but it would be. Thunder lowered his head, pressed his legs into the shingles to keep balance. The roof rocked gently beneath him, drifting with no direction. He was alive, but alone. The roof groaned beneath him. Not loud, just a low, tired sound like old wood remembering what it once held. Thunder stood near the peak, hooves splayed for balance on the slippery pitch. His legs trembled, not from cold, but from the effort of staying upright. There was nowhere else to go. Rain lashed sideways. The wind had shifted, no longer angry, just steady, unrelenting. Water rose with it, licking higher along the rooftop's edge, swallowing the shingles inch by inch. Thunder's tail hung soaked and heavy. His bay coat, once gleaming, was now caked in mud and rain. The white blaze on his face had turned the color of dirty river foam. He turned in small, shaky circles, testing his weight, trying to find better footing. There was none. The slope offered no shelter, no dry patch, no relief, just steep, wet angles and a thin line between standing and falling. The house beneath him shifted again, just enough to make him freeze. Wood popped, a nail creaked loose. The building was losing its fight. So was he. He hadn't rested in hours, hadn't moved much either. Every attempt to lie down ended in panic, his legs sliding, the roof threatening to pitch him back into the flood. So he stood, and stood, and stood, muscles locking, joints burning. He watched the water swallow a telephone pole, then a tire swing, then a floating couch that rolled once and sank without a sound. Thunder lowered his head, nostrils flaring. The wind carried no scent of his herd, no trace of star, no sound of hooves, only the groan of the house, the hiss of water against shingles. For the first time in his wild, free life, Thunder felt small, helpless. He shifted again, careful. A loose shingle slid away under his hoof and disappeared into the flood. The rain kept falling, the roof kept sinking, and Thunder stood alone on an island that was disappearing beneath him. Darkness came without stars. The rain had finally slowed, but the damage was done. The flood didn't retreat. It kept rising, inch by inch, like it had no intention of stopping. Thunder stood on the very peak of the roof now, a space barely wide enough for his 4 hooves. The rest was gone, submerged, lost. 6 hours. He'd been standing 6 hours without rest, muscles stiff, legs trembling so hard they felt hollow. The wind cut straight through his soaked coat. His body shook with cold and fatigue, but he couldn't lie down, couldn't sleep. The moment he closed his eyes, his knees would buckle, and he wouldn't get back up. He blinked slowly, trying to stay alert. Every few minutes his head would dip, then jerk back up. He was losing the fight. His throat ached with thirst, but the water that surrounded him carried oil, debris, rot. It wasn't drinkable. It wasn't even water anymore, just poison, wearing a river's face. The rooftop creaked again, lower than before. Beneath him, the house shuddered, like it was taking its last breath. The wind howled through broken rafters. Somewhere in the distance, something metal groaned as it collapsed into the flood. Thunder flinched. But there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, just him, and the dark, and the terrible quiet between waves. He thought of Star, of the yearling with the crooked blaze, of the sound their hooves made when they galloped together through open valleys. Gone. The thought hollowed him. His legs trembled harder. He lowered his head, eyes closed, water lapping at his fetlocks, even on the highest point. If the flood rose any higher, he'd be standing in it, or not standing at all. Thunder swayed, his knees buckled, then he caught himself. Head snapped upward, ears pinned back, and he screamed, not a whinny, not a cry for help, but a scream, raw, ragged, wild. It tore from his chest and split the storm. A sound not of surrender, but of defiance, of rage, of life. He was a Mustang, and he would not go quietly. The sky cracked open in gray, not light exactly, just less dark. Dawn hadn't brought warmth, only a dull awareness of how cold he'd become. Thunder's legs ached with a deep, bone-heavy fatigue. He had stopped shaking hours ago. Now he just stood, still, hollow, waiting. The water had reached his knees, even here on the roof's highest point. His hooves shifted, with every slow wave, slick against the soaked shingles. He no longer flinched at the groans of the dying house beneath him. He had no energy left for fear. His head dipped lower with each breath. Sleep clawed at him, cruel and persistent. His body begged for it, but instinct knew what came next. If he gave in, if he collapsed, he wouldn't rise again. He blinked, paused, blink. Something moved, not the usual debris, not a branch, not a tire or a chair or some broken piece of someone's life. It moved against the current, toward him. His ears twitched, uncertain, eyes narrowed. For a moment he thought he'd imagined it. A hallucination, maybe. His mind wasn't sharp anymore. Too many hours in survival. But no, it was real. A dark shape, low in the water, swimming, cutting clean lines through the muddy flood. Purposeful, alive. Thunder's breath caught in his throat. It wasn't human. No paddle, no motor, no shouting voice, just 2 eyes above the water line, locked on him. He stiffened. The shape drew closer, black and tan, powerful shoulders slicing through the water, like it had done this 100 times. A dog. Thunder didn't move, didn't even breathe. Dogs barked, dogs chased, dogs belonged to humans, but this one was silent, steady, unafraid of the current, unafraid of him. 50 feet, then 30, then 10. It was close now. The dog swam straight for the crumbling rooftop, like it had always known he'd be there. Thunder stood frozen, not from fear, but from disbelief, because this shouldn't be happening. Not here, not now, not like this. And yet, it was. She climbed out of the flood like it was routine. The dog, large, soaked black and tan, scrambled up the slanted shingles with practiced effort, claws scritching for grip. Her chest heaved with exhaustion, but her movements were sure. She didn't bark at Thunder, didn't growl or bare teeth. She didn't even look startled to see him. She stood beside him, not too close, not threatening, just there. Thunder's muscles tensed, ready to bolt, even though there was nowhere to go. He'd seen dogs before, snapping at hooves behind wire fences, chasing his herd across open plains. But this was different. Her eyes met his with something he didn't expect. Calm. She turned her head and barked. Sharp, urgent, not at him, but toward the distant shore. Then again, and again. Thunder didn't move. She looked back at him, head tilted slightly. Water streamed from her fur in rivulets. She was older than she looked, graying at the muzzle, one ear notched, but there was no fear in her eyes, only purpose. The bark came again, this time followed by a low whine, as if urging something or someone. Thunder shifted his weight. The rooftop creaked beneath them both. He expected her to flinch, to slide backward, but she adjusted easily, counterbalancing on the steep pitch, like she'd done it before, like she'd trained for it. She had. He didn't know her name, not yet, but her posture said everything. She wasn't lost. She wasn't wandering. She'd come for him. Somewhere in the distance, a faint mechanical hum echoed across the water, low and uneven. A boat engine. Thunder's ears flicked toward it. The dog barked louder, more insistent now. She moved to the roof's edge and planted herself like a signal flare, tail raised, chest out. He understood, somehow. This dog was calling help for a wild Mustang, and the moment didn't feel strange. It felt earned. The boat appeared through the haze like a ghost, small, orange, slow against the churning water. Thunder froze. His ears flattened, nostrils flaring. Humans. The sound of the engine grew louder, echoing off the water's surface like a threat. Two figures inside, bright vests, determined movements. One held the tiller, the other scanned the water, then pointed, straight at him. Max barked again, short and clipped. A signal, not fear, not alarm. Direction. Thunder shifted on the shingles, hooves slipping slightly. His body screamed to flee, but there was nowhere to flee to. The flood still swallowed the world. The rooftop still rocked beneath him. Max turned to him, eyes locked, steady. Then she did something small but seismic. She leaned against him, not hard, just enough to remind him she was there. A solid presence, a living anchor. The humans brought the boat in slowly, cautious of the current. The woman held something coiled in her hand. Rope. Thunder's heart pounded, his muscles tensed. Every wild instinct shouted run, but Max didn't move. She stayed beside him, pressed closer, and the woman's voice cut through the wind, calm and clear. Easy, boy. We're not here to hurt you. Max says you're worth saving. The rope sailed through the air and landed across his neck, light as a feather, terrifying as a trap. Thunder stiffened, legs locked. Max pressed her shoulder into his again, steady, trusting. He looked at her, really looked. She wasn't afraid, and neither, somehow, was he. He made the choice, not with words, not with reason, but with stillness. He didn't bolt, didn't rear, didn't fight. He stood and let them place the rope. A wild horse, trusting a dog who trusted these people. In the middle of a flood that erased all rules, that was enough. The rope went slack, then taut. Thunder stepped off the rooftop, and the flood swallowed him whole. The cold hit like a slap to the chest. His legs kicked instinctively, muscles screaming from hours of standing. The current dragged him sideways, twisting his body. The boat ahead surged forward, rope in hand, not pulling, just guiding. Max dove in beside him without hesitation. Her head bobbed just above the water, strong strokes cutting through the filth. She swam ahead, glancing back every few strokes to keep him in her line of sight. Thunder followed, not by command, by instinct. A broken fence post rushed past, sharp, splintered, deadly. Max barked once, short and sharp. Thunder veered just in time. His side scraped something metal, a submerged car maybe, but he kept moving. Every stroke cost more than the last. His legs, once powerful, now dragged like anchors. Water slapped his nostrils. His vision blurred. The boat kept its distance, careful not to crowd him. The man and woman inside calling encouragement he barely heard. Max never left his side. A mattress floated by, then a door, then a child's toy. The valley was unrecognizable. Thunder's head dipped below the surface once, twice. The third time, he didn't come back up. The rope jerked, then Max disappeared too. Seconds passed, then they surfaced. Thunder coughing, Max gripping his mane, not pulling, guiding. Her teeth didn't bite. They held, gently, urgently. She swam alongside, close enough that he could feel her body brush his, in the current. Half a mile. That's what the humans had said. Half a mile to the overpass, still above water, but it felt like an ocean. Thunder's strokes grew weaker, his legs barely moved. He drifted sideways, eyes glassy. Max barked again, louder now, desperate. He heard her, and fought harder. The rope, the boat, the dog, all moved as one. A fragile chain pulling something broken towards something solid. Then hope. His hoof scraped bottom, just once, but enough. Max barked again, this time sharp, with urgency. The man jumped from the boat, waist deep, rope in hand. Come on, boy, almost there. Thunder lunged, legs flailing, heart pounding. Max swam beside him until she too could touch earth. Together, muddy, soaked, bleeding, they walked, step by step, towards solid ground, towards something that felt like survival. The concrete felt foreign under his hoof, hard, flat, unyielding, but it held. Thunder stumbled up the embankment, legs quivering, every step threatening to fold him in half. His coat dripped with filth, blood from a gash near his flank, mixed with mud. Around them, people stared, refugees huddled beneath the overpass, wrapped in blankets, sitting beside crates. Animals, silence. Max walked beside him, her paws slapping wet pavement. She didn't look at the crowd, she looked at him. They reached a clear space near the guardrail. Thunder made it 3 more steps, then collapsed. Not from pain, not from fear, just done. His sides heaved, eyes half closed. He didn't move, he couldn't. Max didn't leave. She lay down beside him, her body pressed against his, fur-soaked tail. Still, her presence wasn't dramatic. It was absolute, as if nothing else existed but this one horse, one dog, and a shared silence that needed no translation. Someone brought a blanket, someone else, a bucket of water. No ropes, no halters, just stillness and awe. That's him, a voice whispered, the one the dog swam out to. Cameras clicked, a few phones were raised, but no one got too close. Thunder opened his eyes once, just long enough to see Max. She was watching, and that was enough. An hour passed, then 2. When he finally stood, it wasn't with fear, it was slow, shaky, but chosen. Max rose too. Where he went, she followed, but trouble arrived with the next truck. Officials, vests, clipboards, calm voices that carried weight. Wild horse, BLM jurisdiction. He'll need to be transported to holding, for his safety. The woman from the boat, Sarah, stepped between them. He's not just a number. That dog swam through a flood for him. Doesn't that count for something? A pause, shifting glances. The rope around Thunder's neck still hung loose. No one dared tighten it. Max stood between Thunder and the men. No growl, no bark, just that same calm presence, unyielding. The storm was over, but another fight was beginning. The road to the ranch was slow, winding through hills still damp from the flood. Trees leaned in silence. Fences were down, fields scattered with debris, but the land had held, elevated, untouched, waiting. Jim stood at the gate, hand resting on Max's head, as the truck rolled to a stop. He didn't say much, just opened the trailer and stepped back. Thunder stood inside, eyes wide, body still wary. Behind him, Star and Creek, tired but healing. The smell of open grass drifted in on a breeze. Clean, wild, free. Max jumped down first. She trotted to the base of the ramp and turned, waiting. Thunder hesitated, then stepped out. The earth felt different here, soft, uneven, familiar, the kind of ground that welcomed hooves instead of trapping them. He walked slowly, nostrils flaring. Max led the way, not directing, just guiding. No halters, no fences, just space. Star and Creek followed, their movements tentative at first, then looser, stronger. The herd was small, but it was his. Max stayed close, her ears swiveling with each sound. She didn't chase, didn't herd. She simply watched, protected. They can stay as long as they want, Jim said quietly. The land backs into the wild corridor. They'll find their own path, if they choose. Thunder didn't choose to leave, not yet. That first night, Max curled up beside him, under a twisted juniper tree. He lowered his head, until it rested lightly against hers. No commands, no language, just a bond. something ancient and unexpected. In the days that followed, routine found them. Mornings brought grazing. Afternoons, slow climbs up the hills. Max always nearby, sometimes leading, sometimes trailing, but always there. Thunder began to return to himself. So did she. Sarah visited once and stood for a long time at the fence line, watching the two of them. "I think they saved each other," she whispered, and they had, because survival wasn't just about escaping the storm, it was about what came after. Thunder, the wild Mustang who defied a flood. Max, the dog who refused to let him go under. Neither one belonged to anyone, but they belonged to each other. And in those quiet hills, something new took root, not ownership, not captivity, but family. If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone who believes in second chances, unexpected heroes, and bonds that break every rule. Subscribe to Horse Tales of Wonder for more powerful stories of resilience, redemption, and the quiet strength that lives in both hooves and paws. Either their courage ripple farther. Like, comment, share, tell us, who's your Max or Thunder?